The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Fallon, is now recognized. Mr. Fallon.
Madam Chair, thank you. Violence as a way of achieving racial justice is both impractical and immoral. It is impractical because it is a descending spiral ending in destruction for all. It is immoral because it seeks to humiliate the opponent rather than win his understanding. It seeks to annihilate rather than to convert. Violence is immoral because it thrives on hatred rather than love. One of the greatest Americans to ever live uttered those words over a half a century ago, Reverend Martin Luther King. What happened on January 6th, I think every member of this committee in our chamber would agree was horrific, criminal, and completely inconsistent with the values of a vibrant and healthy republic, and should receive just condemnation from all quarters. What we should be doing today, and for that matter, what leadership of this chamber should have been doing for the past 4 months, is trying to find out what happened on January 6th and why. What accounted for the massive security failure and who was truly at fault for that failure. How could an unorganized mob of strangers, most unarmed completely while others with flagpoles and pepper spray, have breached the United States Capitol? The best and most effective way to answer these questions is to take the obvious political theater out of the equation altogether. If the events of January 6th received bipartisan condemnation, which they did, then the best way to discover the causes for the riot itself, and for the security failures that allowed the breach should be through a bipartisan commission. And for the record, just such a proposal was presented by Republicans on January 12th, and Speaker Pelosi has since dragged her feet, which begs the question, why? This delay and lack of leadership is inexcusable. I was one of the last to leave the chamber on that fateful day. And I'll tell you straight up with full candor, I didn't know it was on the other side of that door. I heard Capitol Police shout, "Shots fired, shots fired." It was harrowing. And hell yeah, I was scared. I will also be forever proud of those brave members of the chamber who stood their ground to the right and left of me with the Capitol Police. Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen, Troy Nehls, Ronnie Jackson, Tony Gonzalez, they augmented Capitol Police, and through their actions, we will also be able to forever tell the world that the House chamber, unlike the Senate, was never breached. Our Democratic colleagues and their friends in the mainstream media are quite fond of labeling January 6th as an insurrection or even a rebellion. But are those descriptions accurate, or are they hyperbolic? To be sure, January 6th, an unruly and dangerous mob of about 400 broke the law, criminally trespassed, committed various other crimes, and endangered the health, safety, well-being, and lives of many innocent people. As mobs so often do, they resorted to the lowest common denominator and devolved from peaceful protesting to violent actions. Mobs are not only unruly, they're stupid as well. They're mindless and they're irrational. That's precisely why they are so dangerous. So was it a rebellion? Was it sedition? Was the mob intent on killing and overthrowing the government? Let's not allow speculation and conjecture and partisan opinion to rule the day. Let's look at what the individuals in the mob that breached the Capitol were actually charged with. Were there any charges filed for murder, attempted murder, treason, insurrection? Well, not that we could find. So was January 6th an insurrection, or could it be more accurately described as a mob of misfits committing disorderly conduct, violent entry, civil disorder, vandalism, unlawful entry, etc.? You know, the crimes that these people were actually charged with. At the end of the day, Republicans have proven themselves the only ones who have been and maintained consistency. We have condemned violence, rioting, and mayhem at every turn. We did so in the summer of 2020 during the BLM and Antifa violent riots that swept the country, 140 cities, caused $2 billion in damages, and killed 24 Americans. And we remembered the revered remarks of Dr. Martin Luther King and condemned that violence. No committee hearings, to my knowledge, have been held to examine the root causes of all that destruction and loss of life. Republicans have condemned that violence and mayhem on January 6th as well. And it was abhorrent, disgusting, beneath the dignity of respectable citizens. The best way to ensure the Capitol is never again breached is to appoint a bipartisan commission forthwith to examine the events of January 6th, and to do so without the looming and tempting fog of political gain hovering over the process. Madam Chair, I yield back.